Why does being a high value man matter if you're not going to eventually start a family?
Because look at all the girls here. They're all propping themselves up to be that high value man. That's why.
Just to
Well,
clarify,
and we're calling that bleak, and we're calling that out and saying it's empty. So why are we advocating for the same thing on the other side?
Because it's not going to change, bro. Feminism is here and it's not going anywhere. Like, women will not concede whatsoever. Like, they're going to continue to make money. They're going to continue to gain status. They're going to continue to, go up the ranks. Women are going to out-earn men in the next 20 years. I predict it. They're dominating men when it comes to college
but being
graduation.
bleak about it is kind of a waste, because we've seen some, like, I think your answer is exactly what I saw girls in Eastern Europe doing, trying to get closer to God, working on their health, working on making sure they're emotionally mature. That's what Eastern European women are doing. So it's not like you can't just put a blanket over all the women here and say, give up and cut off your fucking balls from your dick so that
No, I get that. I'm all for families, man. I've always said it. The nuclear family is the backbone of any thriving society. However, when half the equation of having a nuclear family doesn't necessarily prioritize a nuclear family, as a man, you got to make some adaptations, because if you do make a nuclear family with someone that isn't as interested in making a nuclear family with you, and they're rewarded for leaving that nuclear family through divorce courts, alimony, etc. As a guy, you got to kind of reassess how you want to move. So I'm saying families are fantastic, but it's a very dangerous proposition in the West, the United States.
All right, guys. So I want to talk about a fascinating conversation that's a little bit different than what I usually talk about, but it is culture related. As there is a battle for the minds of young men that is going on in this society, particularly in the West, in the United States, right? And there's currently a raging debate between tradcons, or traditional conservative men, and red pill men in regards to what it means to be a high value man. Now, again, I find this debate to be fascinating because I am 28 years old, okay? And I grew up in a two-parent household, traditional, religious, socially conservative family. I grew up watching my father work multiple jobs. He was the greatest example of what I would consider to be a high value man in my life. My parents are still married. Again, everything about my background is super traditional, okay? And that is ultimately what I want in the future. However, I do acknowledge that some of the arguments of the red pill community are valid in regards to how modern dating, okay, has changed the dynamics of how, I guess, men should carry themselves, and how to deal with women because of feminism, because of, custody laws, divorce laws, or whatever. Things are stacked in favor of women, and things are just not the same. For example, I'm not with the whole Steve Harvey simp talk, right? Where this dude was talking about men shouldn't ask women what they bring to the table, and basically, you shouldn't have any real standards for your women, and as men, we have to be the ones to bring everything to the table. I'm not necessarily sure if I'm with that, right? That guy was in 2 or 3 marriages, okay, got divorced, been finessed multiple times. Now, I'm not with all that, right? I'm not with the simp talk, okay? That's how you get finessed, okay? That's how you get finessed. I adhere to and I listen to both sides, okay? And again, as a 28-year-old man, I feel like, I'm kind of stuck in the middle here, okay? And I'm listening to both sides, and I'm trying to decide, okay, what's valid, what's not valid from today's lens, okay? And I think that ultimately in the day, I find myself in the middle. I think both sides make good points. But again, what they're debating here is what is a high value man, okay? So we're going to talk about Rollo Tomasi's perspective, who's a red pill guy. Even though he's married, he's been married for years, but he's, a red pill guy. And then Ben Shapiro's perspective, who, he's a traditional conservative guy, okay? He's married, he's got kids, do all this other stuff. And they got 2 different perspectives on what a high-value man is. I'm going to go through both perspectives real quick. And then I'm going to get in a video debate about one of the more controversial recommendations that are coming out of red pill space that I believe is kind of missing the mark and kind of defeating the whole purpose of how you become a high-value man in the first place, or a very important characteristic that, most men should have if they want to be successful in anything, okay? But first, let's go over the 2 definitions here of a high-value man. Rollo says, don't get married, avoid family creation, vasectomies in your 20s, live consistently, eliminate all sedations, learn, game, and networking, play to your strengths, build wealth, resist easing up on your focus. Ben Shapiro says the quickest path to becoming a high-value man, stay healthy, get a job, get married, go to church/synagogue, have kids, develop a skill set, and then develop it in the most market-driven way. Okay, so clearly there's some things here that are contradictory, okay? The whole part about starting a family, right? Avoiding family creation is what Rollo Tomasi's saying. And I think more specifically, he's saying, you know, avoid family creation in your 20s, okay? Or as you're trying to become a high-value man, you know, don't get married and get a vasectomy in your 20s, okay? Obviously, Ben Shapiro doesn't agree with that. And I think the most controversial recommendation is the vasectomies in your 20s. And I think a lot of people are having issues with that recommendation. And I kind of want to talk about that because I think that, you know, that recommendation in of itself probably, I think, kind of defeats the purpose, or I think kind of, you know, discounts a key characteristic that I think most people should have if you just want to be successful at anything in life generally. But before I get into it, I actually want to play a clip of a debate between Sneako and Fresh and Fit on this topic of a man getting a vasectomy in his 20s to avoid family creation. Take a look.
What are you saying?
What do they focus on? Girls the whole time. He's saying at this point in your career, when you're on the way up, focus on things that are going to help you move forward in life and become successful.
And get a surgery done that prevents you from having children.
Yeah, but you can always reverse it.
A lot of the times that shit messes up. That's not something you could just like hope that it's going to be okay.
Generally, most men can't control their urges, so what's going to happen is they're going to go fuck around and get somebody pregnant.
This is how you rise up the path to become high status, because you're eliminating all variables that can fuck you up.
Yeah, it's about
That's what he's saying.
Risk mitigation right there.
How many dudes do you know that could have made it to the NBA or could have been a star and an athlete or something that got some chick pregnant? Kids a lot of the times ruin dudes' futures because they have kids prematurely. So he's saying this is the path to becoming a high value man. And then once you become that guy,
reverse the vasectomy.
Reverse the vasectomy.
Yeah. Do you think that's good advice? I mean, that's good advice if your qualifications of a high value man is a guy with a big body count. But it might be like I thought.
No. He's talking about increasing your value as a man. You're basically what he's doing is he's retard proofing it.
Yeah.
If you have vasectomy and you bust nuts at girls, you're not going to have a kid, so you're not going to fuck up your future when you're young and you're not in a position to raise that child. That's what he's saying.
We all know what is men's biggest weakness: women. And as a result, what happens is, what's another factor for not having success? Having a kid too early. That's reality.
That's the number one wealth killer, dude.
Yeah,
kids. If you really look at it, it's the number one wealth killer.
Now, once again, we support families.
Yeah, we do.
But at the same time, for what he's saying, to become successful
you
at a young
can't
age,
say that you support families and also tell your audience to get a vasectomy.
We didn't say that. We just said you're
toting the fence about it.
We're explaining why he said that.
Do you agree?
I understand why he said it.
You see how you're ducking? You see how you're ducking the question? It's a simple question.
It's on me. It's not about me. It's about the generational.
I'm asking your opinion.
No. Sneako, you're funny.
It's just a question.
No.
Bro, we make the girls on the panel answer questions specifically all the time. It's just, do you agree? Yes or no?
Personally, my decision has nothing to do with this discussion. I'm just saying for you.
Politician answer.
Yeah, so you've seen that, you heard that. Now, again, I think this is a fascinating debate because I definitely think that both sides have some pretty compelling arguments in regards to, I guess, their definition of a high value man, right? And I guess what men should aspire to be, okay, which is to be leaders of their families, to have kids, you know, have a wife, you know, to take care of their families, to provide, to protect, to preach, to lead. I think that both sides make some good arguments. I think that the red pill definitely is more adjusted to modern day dating than traditional conservatives. But I think that ultimately a lot of the red pill stuff or the red pill recommendations comes from a place of men wanting to get back to a more traditional society and obtaining a more traditional woman or traditional family, and they want to avoid the pitfalls of modern dating in order to get there. Again, like, this is why they're saying, you know, avoiding family creation. And I think what they more specifically mean is that, well, it's not that having a family is necessarily bad, but it's more like, well, with today's society and the way that things are stacked up, you know, against men, it might not necessarily be a good idea when you're younger to start a family and then you just end up getting divorced. You have kids, you got to pay child support, you're giving away half of your money. You're not going to be able to build wealth that way. But I think sometimes when you're thinking about this stuff, you may get so extreme that you become what you are against or what you hate, okay? Because a lot of this stuff is happening because women have so many options, okay? They're out here on these apps. They can get men anytime they want. There's so many options for them. They're promiscuous. They're on birth control. You know, they're having more sex than ever, right? Men are having less sex. I get it, right? So it's like one of those things where it's like, okay, but is the answer to that to recommend that a man try to avoid starting a family by getting a vasectomy, right? To basically castrate yourself? I'm not necessarily sure if that's the answer, because I think that family should be the end goal, right? I think that's what you should be trying to get towards. And I totally get trying to become the best man that you can become, whether that be through developing leadership skills, you know, personal development, you know, making more money, whatever career. I definitely totally get a man trying to maximize his value before getting married. But if we're talking about value maximization and avoiding the pitfalls of modern day dating, and you have to go so far as a man in order to avoid the pitfalls to castrate yourself, then I don't think that you have the number one quality or number one characteristic or trait that you need to be a so-called high value man in the first place, which is discipline, right? You need discipline. Okay. Again, that's what I think is missing here. Is like, you're saying that men should get a vasectomy to dummy proof themselves. Well, you're implying that a man that needs to get a vasectomy in order to not have kids, he doesn't have the discipline to avoid putting himself in that situation in the first place. I mean, I'm 28 years old. I don't have any kids yet, right? And it's very easy not to have kids. I mean, there's multiple ways. You can just abstain from sex, or you can use protected sex, or if you slip up, you know, there's options out there to help you out. Preferably you don't get an abortion, but hey, if you got to use plan B, it's there, right? Women have birth control. Like, there are so many different ways as a man to not have kids just through being disciplined, right? Having de-discipline, right? That used to be a thing, having de-discipline. That I just think that the whole vasectomy thing is going a little bit too far, right? Again, if somebody has to dummy proof themselves not to have children, then they probably don't have, again, the number one characteristic, in my opinion, that you need to be successful at anything, really, which is discipline, right? Because you need discipline in order to grow in your career, in order to make more money, in order to self-improve, to stay in shape, to do anything in life, right? You need discipline. And I think that instead of recommending that men dummy proof themselves so they don't have kids so that they can avoid starting a family, I think that a better recommendation would be, no, you should be disciplined. You should be disciplined as a man, and I don't know, maybe not sleep around with so many women, have so much unprotected sex. Maybe you should take precautionary measures, okay, and discipline yourself as a man, control yourself, your urges, your emotions, in order to avoid pitfalls rather than to, again, castrate yourself. Again, I think that recommending that a man get a vasectomy so that, you know, presumably they can have as much unprotected sex as they want without having to worry about getting a girl pregnant, again, kind of defeats the purpose, right? Because how can you be a high value man if you don't even have enough discipline to not have unprotected sex, right? To avoid having children. You have to go so far as to get a vasectomy to avoid it. That means that, again, you're lacking discipline, right? And furthermore, when you're talking about maximizing your value as a man, I mean, I would think that based off the statistics, I mean, part of it is, you know, earning power, right? How much money you make. Married men make more money than anybody else in this country, than their single counterparts. And, you know, that could be because higher earning men, single men, tend to get married more than lower earning men. And they also tend to wait later on in life, right? In their late 20s, early 30s, whatever, until they get married. But regardless, I guess what I'm saying is that, you know, you can start a family, and if you're disciplined about who you choose to be with, if you're disciplined about when you decide to have kids, if you do family planning, I think that's also a way to become a high value man as well too. Because again, I think that, you know, being married, there is some value in regards to having a wife or a woman in your corner that's supportive and helping you get there. I think there is some value to that. Now, again, in terms of how you choose, okay, and how you actually find that woman, that's a whole conversation in and of itself. Obviously a big issue for men, but I'm just saying in general, this is what happens when any type of movement or ideology gets too extreme. Because don't get me wrong, I adhere to some of the red pill stuff. I definitely think what they say about modern day women is extremely true, right? I think that the dating has changed. And I think that traditional conservatives, are kind of lacking perspective on what young men have to go through nowadays in the dating scene. So I 100% get it. And I 100% on board with any man that's saying, look, I'm going to wait to my 30s. I'm not going to start a family early. I'm going to wait to my 30s. I'm going to maximize my value. I'm going to make sure that, I pick the right woman. I'm going to be patient. I'm going to do whatever I can to become the best version of myself. And then I'll focus on starting a family when I can provide the most for my family, when I'm in a advantageous, situation, when I've already built up, my business or myself, or if I become the best person I want to be. I 100% get that. I'm all on board with that, right? That's one of the reasons why I'm not in a rush. But the ultimate goal should be to start a family. Maybe instead of saying avoid family creation, maybe the recommendation should be, I don't know, delay family creation until you become the best version of yourself, right? I think that might be better advice, okay? And instead of telling men to get vasectomies, maybe you should say, hey, practice self-control and discipline, right? Don't just be sleeping around, having unprotected sex with women, putting yourself in situations where you could, get a woman pregnant in the first place and to have a child out of wedlock, right? Again, I think a lot of people forget that discipline is so important when it comes to anything that you're doing in life, right? And a lot of people, are getting to the point now where the ideologies become so extreme that they want to avoid responsibility. When I think ultimately as men, right, to differentiate ourselves from the feminists is that we have to embrace accountability and responsibility. And a part of that is saying that, hey, maybe I shouldn't just put my penis, right, into, every girl that I see raw, especially without a condom. Maybe I should avoid doing that, okay? Maybe exercising discipline, right, and control over your emotions may be a better prescription. I'm just saying. I just find that conversation to be interesting. I am looking forward to more arguments about, what a high value man is from traditional conservatives and, the red pill space, because I do find it fascinating. And I think it's a conversation that definitely needs to be had. I just think the vasectomy thing is probably one of these arguments that the red pill might want to back off on, because I think that they're going to lose a whole lot of people with that recommendation, because again, that is kind of getting into becoming what you say that you hate or that you don't like, okay, from women, in my opinion. But that's just my opinion. Let me know what you guys think. Make sure you like, comment, subscribe. Most importantly, share a Black conservative perspective. Peace.